Hi, if you've played D&D for a little while, or are just starting, there's several plot hooks that we've all seen before. You all meet in a tavern, or there's a kidnapped noble, or even you have to find this cursed object. Any of those sound familiar? Today I'm getting into why I hate these tired D&D plot hooks, but more importantly, how you can switch them up to make them better and actually more engaging. This is Taylor's Tavern Tales, and let's get into it. First up, we have the infamous you all meet in a tavern. Now, don't get me wrong, I've used this scenario many a time. It's a classic for a reason. But when the only reason your players are meeting for the first time is because they're all in the same place at the same time, doesn't really make for an exciting plot hook. There's no depth, there's no stakes, there's no anything to keep the players engaged. And it can definitely lead to a pretty slow start to a campaign, which can be fun sometimes for roleplay stuff, but if you're trying to hit the ground running, it's not a great plot hook. But here's how to make it better. Give your players a common goal. Perhaps some of them have a shared history that draws them to the tavern, instead of just they happen to meet there. For some of my campaigns where I've used the tavern trope, before we even start playing in session 0, I give them a little newspaper or notice board that their character would have seen before they even go to the tavern. After my players have given me their backstory, I like to make a bulletin or a newsletter from the town they're in that would draw each specific character to the tavern. Maybe they're all adventurers and maybe they're going after the same bounty, or maybe they're all looking for different job listings, but it's all taking place in the tavern. Or another fun way your characters can have a shared history is maybe they've been in contact before even getting to the tavern. Maybe they've written each other letters and they're all meeting for the first time. These are just some examples of how you can spice up the you all meet in a tavern to make your players engaged from the beginning. Okay, ignore my quickly drawn sketch. Believe it or not, I went to art school. Actually, that's a lie. I dropped out of art school. Maybe that's why. But next up is the dreaded railroaded investigation. I bet you've either been there or heard about a horror story where it feels like the DM is just playing their own game and the players are just kind of there. If you're a player in this situation, it feels like you have no control over what's happening. Every decision and every investigation is either spoon-fed to you, or it's impossible to do because there's only one NPC that has the information, and the DM just isn't flexible enough to actually let the players investigate and go about things in their own way. Those campaigns are incredibly frustrating for the players, because it feels like there's only one way to do things, the DM's way. So instead, if you're a DM, make the investigations more dynamic. Feel free to make the narrative more of a sandbox and more, are those arrows? I don't know. Have more directions and more NPCs and more information that the players could follow that may not be the correct answer. Throw in some red herrings. Red herring? This way, if you're a DM and you have a preset story, at least it makes the players feel more like they have control over the plot, instead of feeling like there's only one way it can go. And will make your game even better because it feels like the players actually have control over what they're doing. Next up, the missing or kidnapped person plot hook. I don't think I can count how many campaigns have done this because there's too many to count. How many times you've been sent to find someone who's missing or been kidnapped and then it leads into a larger conspiracy? I mean, it works for sure. That's why it's been used so much. But when it's the whole plot hook, it just feels kind of stale and like you've done it before. A little bit of deja vu, you know? So here's a fun twist. What if the missing person doesn't want to be found? They haven't been kidnapped, they're just in hiding. This way, you can still make the story more in-depth and have the larger conspiracy, but it makes the missing person feel more like a well-rounded character. And it can be a great way for the missing person to actually give the player some exposition, if you want to. Or another fun way you can put a twist on this is, what if the missing person has been, oh god, is that a star? What is that? Okay, what if the missing person has been cursed and they're just stuck inside their house, but everyone thinks that they're missing? So the party could actually find the missing person rather quickly, but the campaign is to break the curse. Yeah, ignore that. That was, I don't know what that is. Both of these scenarios give the missing person an actual character instead of, oh, it's just somebody that we have to find. We don't really care about them, you know? Next up is the mysterious artifact. It's powerful, it's ancient, and it's probably cursed. Now, obviously this plot hook has been used many times before in lots of movies and cinema. That's the same thing. Ignore me. In the movies as well. And it leads to some great adventures, that's for sure. For me, it feels as a player that, oh, okay, yeah, we're just gonna do this now, but it doesn't feel like there's any motivation or any real drive behind it, unless your character has an emotional attachment to the object. Which leads me into making it a bit more interesting. What if you make the object that was right. What if you make the object sentient, or you give it some sort of moral weight? An example for the sentience one is I'm literally playing in a campaign right now where our adventuring party has procured a book with sentience who actually speaks to the party and who likes bloodshed a little bit too much. The thing I will say though is be careful, you don't want to overshadow your players and DMPC a little bit too hard, but if you're a DM who has a really in-depth lore for their world and you're just dying to share it with the players, giving an artifact a voice would be a fun way to give some exposition, but be careful with it, okay? Take this with a grain of salt. Or maybe the object is tied to the player's morality. If you've played Wild Beyond the Witchlight, kind of like the good vibes, bad vibes scale in the circus. Whatever you do with it, just have fun, be creative. And finally, the village in peril. Raise your hand if you haven't been in a one-shot or a campaign where this was done. No one? I think this one is probably the most well-known and overdone plot hooks of any campaign. It can be really fun, but if every town you go to is under threat, it just feels repetitive, and the stakes just keep getting lower and lower and lower because your heroes feel like, okay, yeah, we're gonna defeat this thing, and it's gonna be fine, we're gonna save the town, whatever. That being said, I kind of want to make a slice of life D&D campaign with an adventuring party where they go to every single town and it's kind of like repetitive. I feel like it'd be kind of funny. But back to this, how you can make this better and more interesting is, what if the town doesn't actually want to be saved? What if the town is under threat, but they've learned how to adapt while constantly being under threat? Kind of like in Hercules. Okay, if you've seen the Disney movie Hercules, there's a city of thieves where the town is so used to disasters that it's kind of just learned how to be. And the city doesn't want Hercules' help because they're good. I'm gonna put this down. So what if that's the whole plot for the campaign? Now, obviously discuss this with your players if your players are wanting a hack and slash campaign. What if this turns into more of a political intrigue campaign, where instead of smashing it with a hammer, they have to figure out the hierarchy and the politics of this town? I'm a sucker for political intrigue and morally gray campaigns. So there it is, 5 overused plot hooks that, with a little bit more creativity, you can make it even more fun. The key to a great campaign is keeping your players engaged and keeping them interested in what you're doing, and what they're doing, more importantly. So use these tips to give your campaigns an extra little bit of spice. Don't be afraid to feed into the cliches, but make them your own. And let me know what you do to keep your campaigns interesting. Well, I think I'm gonna leave it here for now. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and let me know what you think. And if you would like to support me and the channel so I can continue to create awesome content that hopefully you enjoy, become a channel member or sign up for my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. I post bloopers, extra content, and I post an extra video a month on there. So if you want to see more of my face and support me, click the links in the description below to sign up for my Patreon. And check out my other social medias down there. Well, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.